to use the my models in IBM software. IBM is looking to integrate nonprofits large one.
Metro TV, we're going to begin in 74 seconds. 74 seconds. If I were playing to the social media masses, I would say we're going to be going in 6-7 seconds. The kids these days, you see. Anyone? Okay, yeah. The kids. If you got kids or grandkids the right age, you know what we're talking about here.
Did you see my Facebook post about that?
I did not.
I said all these kids out here talking about 6, 7, and I'm over here 2 to the 3 to the 4, Snoop Doggy Doggus.
Exactly.
And then at my trunk or treat, some kids show up 6, 7, so I had to get pictures with them.
Okay, that's funny. And as someone
No
who
one
is
can still tell me
actually
what it
6'7" as my actual height, I feel very targeted by this social media meme.
No one can tell me what it means.
It doesn't mean anything.
Oh, she's like 6, 7.
I know. It doesn't. There's nothing good about it. All right, Metro TV, let's do this thing. Good afternoon. This is the regularly scheduled meeting of the Labor and Economic Development Committee for Tuesday, October 7th. It is now 3:03 Standard Apple Time. I am Committee Chair Ben Reno Weber. This meeting is being held pursuant to KRS 61.826 and Council Rule 5A. I am joined by my co-chair, Councilwoman Bast, Councilman Owen, Councilman Herndon, Councilman Batshon, Councilwoman Purvis, Councilman Benson, and I believe that is all. He was joining us virtually.
He is still.
He is. All right. All right. First on the agenda is item R114-25. Madam Clerk, will you read the extraordinarily long title of this proposal, or this ordinance?
A resolution ratifying and approving a collective bargaining agreement from the date of its approval through June 30th, 2029, relating to wages, hours, and other terms and conditions of employment between Louisville Jefferson County Metro Government and the American Federation of State, County, and Municipal Employees, AFL-CIO Local 2629 AFSCME, concerning non-probationary, non-supervisory, regular employees of Metro Government for whom AFSCME is recognized as the exclusive bargaining representative in the following Metro Government departments: Department of Public Health and Wellness, Office of Social Services, Metro Louisville, Louisville Metro Air Pollution Control District, Office of Management and Budget Health Billing, Office of Management and Budget Revenue Commission, Department of Metro Animal Services, Louisville Metro Department of Corrections, Department of Youth Transitional Services, Department of Codes and Regulations, Office of Planning, Metro Technology Services, Office of Records and Compliance, and Department of Public Works and Assets, read in full.
Mr.
I
Chairman,
don't think your microphone is on. Can you do that again?
Mr. Chairman,
Do I have a motion and a second?
Second.
Thank you. Is there anyone here to speak to this who is at least 6 or 7 inches taller than Councilwoman Purvis?
I'll speak to this item.
Excellent.
Good afternoon, I'm Aaron Jackson with OMB. This agreement before you covers approximately 182 positions across various departments, which I will not repeat. In the interest of time, it is a 5-year contract covering fiscal year 25 through fiscal year 29. It does include steps, COLAs, and longevity. In FY25, it calls for wages of approximately 20% retro to July 1, 2024. FY26 calls for a 3% wage increase. FY27 calls for a 3% wage increase. And FY28 and FY29 calls for a 2% wage increases each year. It does include a $1,000 annual longevity for members with 18 plus years of experience. The total cost of the contract is approximately $48 million without fringes and $60.6 million with fringes. And it voted 116 in favor and 9 opposed. And with that, I'll answer any questions you may have.
Thank you. Let the record reflect we have been joined by our colleague, Dr. Paula McCraney. Colleagues, do you have any questions or comments? Councilman Owen.
Thank you, Chair. I always like to ask a couple of questions about these. The first being, I think we're always trying to get up to par with our peer cities, and most of the time when I ask this question, or maybe all the time, the answer I get is yes, we feel good about where we are compared to our peer cities, and I just wanted to ask that within this context as well.
So I did anticipate that question.
Yes.
And I believe, yes, I'm getting a head nod that it does, it is in line with market rates.
Great, that's what I wanted to hear. And then another question I always like to ask as well, I know we had 3 or 4 of these that were pending, negotiation. How many more do we still have that are kind of, a little bit backlogged from when they expired? We have 1 more left? And how far are we away from getting that one negotiated? Excellent. Those are the 2 answers I wanted to hear. Thank you very much.
Excellent. Anyone else?
Here. Mr. Chairman, technical question, does the length of the title of this resolution have anything to do with the natural verbosity of the sponsor?
Not to my knowledge. I don't believe there's a statistical correlation there, but
Okay,
we can certainly look into that in the future.
thank you.
Mr. Chair, if I may, can I be added as a sponsor?
Absolutely, as long as we can be short about it.
Oh, and can I ask Mr. Jackson a question?
Absolutely.
So this is a pretty competitive. You think this will secure our relationship with our employees, and we won't have any fear of losing some of our good employees? Will this retain our employees? Because that's what's most important, is that they're compensated for the work that they do, and that they understand that we understand the value in them. So,
Yes, I agree with that this union contract is favorable and with every expectation that we're able to retain our
Okay.
employees.
thank you.
Excellent. Anyone else? Anyone online? Great. Well, I will just echo our thanks to you for this work and our gratitude to the employees who fill all of these incredibly important roles. We know that attracting and retaining the best talent is how we're going to succeed as a city. So thank you so much. This is an item requiring a voice vote. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Seeing none, this item is passed by acclamation, and we'll go on to the consent calendar. Thank you so much. Ladies and gentlemen, next on our agenda is a discussion about the World Trade Center of Kentucky, and I am so honored and grateful to have the good doctor join us here to talk about the fantastic work that they are doing. When we think about how we become a competitive city and a competitive state, never has it been more important that we are able to promote ourselves not just locally, but also internationally, and I know you have done great work in that. Especially recognizing the billions of dollars of investment that we have gotten as a city, being able to really lift up the companies that are growing here because of that massive investment and help them to access additional markets is so important. So with that, I'm going to hand it over.
Thank you. It's a pleasure to be here with you. I used to come into those chambers years ago, so it's exciting to come back. I'm the former director of international affairs for the city of Louisville, or Louisville Metro Government, and used to come in here during budget hearings. So it's actually.
And will you introduce yourself for the record? Sorry, I did not.
Yeah. Omar Ayyash, President and CEO of the World Trade Center here in Kentucky, and I'm here to talk to you about, the good work that we're doing at the World Trade Center. But before I get into that, like I said, I used to be a former director of international affairs, served under Mayor Armstrong as well as Mayor Abramson, and co-founded WorldFest. That's really one of the biggest achievements that I can talk about, a festival that's been going on for 22, 23 years right now, and everyone celebrates our diversity in this community. So here today, I'm going to be talking to you about really the difference between economic development as well as economic growth. And this is going to be the theme that my presentation here over the next 15 minutes or so is going to focus on. But let me start out by telling you about the World Trade Centers. Many times when I walk the neighborhoods of this city and I tell them that I run the World Trade Center, A lot of people say, we have a World Trade Center. Is it really true that we've got a World Trade Center here in Kentucky? Which building is it? And the message I say, we're pretty much virtual. We're everywhere. We are part of the World Trade Center Association. There's 330 World Trade Centers in 91 countries. And it is the largest business-to-business international trade association. And if you will, many of you have traveled around the world and have seen the World Trade Center buildings. There's two types of the World Trade Centers. There's real estate development World Trade Centers, and there's what I call international chambers of commerce type of World Trade Centers that are focused on helping small, medium, and large companies navigate the international marketplace. Many of the World Trade Centers outside North America tend to be real estate development functioning things. Most of the World Trade Centers inside North America tend to be the later, focused on sort of being a very specific chamber of commerce focused on helping economic development and economic growth in a community. And if you were to stop and think about it for a minute, some of these World Trade Centers around the world have actually erected cities. In 1978, the Dubai World Trade Center was the only skyscrapers in that city. And when you look at their skyline right now and see all the skyscrapers that have existed as a result of that, it's a testament to what happens when you promote international trade. A little bit of history about the World Trade Center in Kentucky. Some of you might remember Governor Collins when she recruited Toyota to move to Kentucky. And by the way, the Toyota plant in Georgetown, Kentucky is the largest Toyota plant in the world, and its home is actually Kentucky. And when they arrived here in 1988, 101 Japanese companies moved with them. So she was pretty much just signed that deal, and she was looking at her cabinet secretary and economic development. She was telling them, we're global right now. We've got to figure out a way to figure that out. And they decided, this is back in 1988, they decided that we're going to bring a World Trade Center to Kentucky, and we're going to start a Japan-American Society. And if you look at the numbers and the expansion that has resulted of that, they really had the foresight. And what was really exciting about that moment is most of the World Trade Centers typically are city-based, but they had the vision and the foresight to name it a statewide organization. I think we're one of a few here in America that have a statewide name. Utah might be the other World Trade Center that has a statewide presence. So we opened our doors in '88 in Lexington, and then eventually in 1995, when there was a lot of merger happening in this city with economic development, that's when we opened the Louisville office for the World Trade Center. And we haven't stopped beating ever since, knocking on doors, small, medium, and large companies. Now, I've been fortunate to work for the World Trade Center twice. I worked for the World Trade Centers in 1995 to about 2001, and I've been working with them for the last 3.5 years. And I've been seeing the transformation that happened in the state from the perspective of how did people think about international trade back then and how they think about international trade today. When I would visit with executives from the state of Kentucky, CEOs of companies, and I would ask them in 1995, the typical question, are you exporting? And I would get a resounding yes. And then I would be like, where are you exporting to? And it typically was Tennessee, Alabama. That was the thought of, doing international business. Fast forward 30 years later, and now you look at our position in terms of international trade, $48 billion left the state of Kentucky last year. In terms of GDP, international trade ranks Kentucky number 2. In terms of imports, $32 billion moved through the state last year. And typically, the numbers associate with, oh, it must be bourbon. It must be horses associated with that. No. The numbers are actually aerospace, the automotive industry, pharmaceuticals, things of that nature. Okay, if you stop to think for a minute, why has this really shift happened? Well, it was a very good decision that we probably took in the 2000s when we helped UPS expand its world port here. And again, in terms of statistics, Jefferson County is #1 exporter in the state of Kentucky. Boone County is #2 in the state of Kentucky, and Fayette County is #3 in the state of Kentucky. And what we need to continue to focus on many times is people forget that we are a 7-hour drive from 2/3 of the U.S. population. Think about that. We are a 7-hour drive from 2/3 of the U.S. population. So we're definitely a logistics hub, and it creates a huge opportunity for that. Now, let's get to the position that we're in today. The World Trade Center of Kentucky has been very fortunate this year because of what's happening in Washington, D.C. The word tariffs has become probably the most common word used at the dinner table. A 5-year-old talks about it as well as a 80-year-old talks about it. You know, oh, you're not going to get this toy this year because tariffs have increased or doubled the price for them. One of the key things about the World Trade Center is that we've been fortunate as an organization is that we don't only talk exports, we also talk imports. So we help companies, small, medium, and large companies in the state of Kentucky navigate the international marketplace from an export perspective, but we also help them navigate from an import perspective. And, you know, a lot of the phone has been ringing, the email has been going off. We've been talking to a lot of Kentucky companies that are worried about tariffs. We, in May, hunkered down in one of Louisville's best companies, a billion-dollar company, without mentioning the name, and worked with them on a complete, you know, trade compliance program, figured out their transported border transactions between their subsidiary in Canada to make sure that they're using the right harmonized tariff schedule classification codes. That's the special word for, you know, the key number that you use to make sure that you're paying the right duties and the right tariffs and things of that nature. And as the CEO of that company said to me, you know, look, I'm going to do this to be more competitive. If my competition needs to focus on this, I'm going to work with the World Trade Center to ensure that I've got the right tools, and I've got to make it easier to my employees to knock down all the barriers that have to do with that. So to summarize, the World Trade Center is here doing consulting work with a lot of our companies right here in the Louisville Metro government on international trade, international compliance, HTS numbers, duties, taxes. We do training, some of the best programs in the region. I just came in from our International Trade Certification Program, where companies from Valvoline, Linkbelt, Revashelf, Alltech, I'm sure I'm forgetting a few, UPS and things of that nature, are in our class right now studying about market access, logistics, legal, payment, things of that nature. And this Friday, I head up a delegation of 16 companies that are going to Dubai for 3 trade shows. We're going to expand North Star, what a beautiful name, you can guess. It's all about startups. That's the first trade show we're going to. The second day, we head to GITEX. And GITEX is the largest business-to-business technology trade show in the world. 180 countries are represented to that. And then when my friends through the World Trade Center network found out that I'm bringing this delegation, and the Dubai World Trade Center facilitates a lot of this, my neighbors a little bit north of Dubai called Sharjah said, hey, we're having a trade show as well. Can you bring your delegation to that trade show? And it turns out they're having an EV mobility trade show that our delegation is going to visit. And this is the type of access our network provides for that. Now, when you're thinking, oh, wow, 16 companies are going to be joining Omar to go on this trade mission. By the way, this is the 3rd year in a row that we're doing it. Every October, the World Trade Center goes to this trade show to provide access to our Kentucky company. The majority of the 16 companies are from Louisville. A lot of them are scale startups, like some of those companies that are working on the e-lottery system of the UAE. They're building the e-lottery system of the UAE. When I was getting them to sign up to go with me on the trade mission, I was talking to Brad Cummings from EQL Gaming. He said to me, I'm already there. I was there in December. And if you give me more face time in that market space, I can continue to go after that. This is the kind of exciting work that we're doing. Todd Schmiedler with Thumbprint Consulting. I've actually got him speaking at several events there with the AmCham Chamber of Commerce of North America. He's sort of like becoming one of the AI gurus of Louisville, and they're excited to hear what type of work Thumbprint Consulting is doing in the AI space and what have you. But what I wanted to emphasize, last year when we were in Dubai, I ran into the World Trade Center from Utah, and they noticed that I'm putting on a great delegation to these wonderful trade shows. And the story is they called me up in April and said, Omar, we don't want to duplicate what you're doing. You already have access to the market. You've already developed relations with the Abu Dhabi World Trade Center, with Dubai World Trade Center, with the Sharjah World Trade Center. Can we tag along? Can we come along on your trade mission? And of course, I said, sure. So 4 of the 16 companies, including the governor's office from Utah, are joining the Kentucky trade mission to expand its international trade. So without going into too much detail, and I didn't go through my slides because I'm actually a professor, and this is typical. When you're a professor, you don't follow your slides. You can actually take one slide and talk about it for 2 hours. But what I wanted to highlight more than anything is the idea that I arrived in Kentucky in 1990 from Vienna, Austria as a 17-year-old. And at that time, I think the world was here and America was here. I was so mesmerized by the things that were happening in America, the big roads, the big highways, the big activities, the malls, and things of that nature. So I left, and in 22, I returned back to Louisville, my hometown. And I noticed that gap has shifted. And to say in situation, we've got more of in some cases, we're on the same level playing field. In some cases, we're actually behind. When it comes to innovation, entrepreneurship, and things of that nature, the world is surpassing us. And what I urge from the constituents in this Economic Development Forum, and I can't thank Councilman Ben Reno, Mr. Chair, for inviting me here, is globalization is extremely important. And we're not going to learn about globalization by sitting in our backyards here. We've got to learn about globalization by visiting countries. And it starts at all levels, whether it's in the middle school, whether it's in the high school, whether it's in the university program, or whether it's our companies expanding and doing international trade, or coming and setting up opportunities here. It's really exciting to see the change that went from exporting to Tennessee to $48 billion of globalization happening in our community. And I really appreciate you for that opportunity, and I thank you. And if anyone has any comment or question, I'm here to answer.
Thank you. It's really exciting. And I love that, I work right across the street from Brad Cummings at UQL Games, and the idea that, he took work that he was doing with the Michigan lottery, what we would previously have considered an export of a Kentucky product, and is now, doing this in the Middle East, and you're helping him to expand there. That is so cool, among so many others. Colleagues, comments, questions for the good doctor? Councilman Owen.
Yeah, I mean, 2 minutes on what's going on with the tariff situation, how much business is that squelching, and where do we go from here?
Well, that's a very difficult thing to answer, and part of it is, the key word is uncertainty. So when we were sitting down this morning in our international trade certification around the table from all these people that are involved in export orders, import orders, the joke was by lunchtime it might change again. I'm going to give you my personal view. Yes, I represent the World Trade Center, but there's also the part of me. The administration used tariffs as an opportunity to consolidate power in the White House, and they did that very nicely. So you got to look at that from that perspective. It brought everyone to the table to negotiate. But then eventually, as the dust will settle, you're going to get to a point where we're going to stick to a certain number. And that number might be around 10% or what have you. Now, is that going to hurt certain businesses? Yes, it will. Is that going to create inflation at some point or another? It certainly will. But what you need to do as a business owner is that you need to always have your contingency plan. You need to always figure out a way to do that. I drove here today and it's raining pretty heavily, and there's risk always associated with that, and I was thinking about how you're going to manage risk to make sure things are happening. And what I mean by that, the United States government has always had programs to help you mitigate some of those duties and taxes that are available to you. And I'm just going to mention a few real quickly here. One is duty drawback. Believe it or not, you can get your duty back if you stipulate certain conditions. There are programs available to that. Call the World Trade Center and we'll help you figure that out. Another thing is our river port is a foreign, free trade zone. Very few people recognize that our river port is a foreign free trade zone. We run a podcast at the World Trade Center, and if you haven't had a chance to listen to our podcast, it's a great way to learn about, it's called this Global Trade Adventure, about all these different programs. I've had one on duty drawback. I've had one with Miguel Zamora from the river port talking about the river port. And technically what it means, being a foreign free trade zone, is if your product comes into your warehouse at the river port and sits there, you don't have to pay duties. So that actually could be until you bring it back into the United States. But if you're going to re-export it to Canada, or you're going to do something with it, tweak it and send it out to Mexico or what have you, you never have to pay duties. Technically, it never entered the United States. And there's 10 other programs that I can talk about. And just like for the sake of time, I'm just going to only take 2 minutes, and then I'm going to whet your curiosity to call the World Trade Center for more opportunity there.
Thank you, Doctor. Thank you, Mr. Chair. You brought up and mentioned the Riverport, and I'm within proximity of the Riverport. And what are the chances of revitalizing and getting that port, I guess, up to snuff into being able to take in more for our city and for just distribution, as we have the UPS hub and other logistical opportunities here? What can we do to port more things into the Riverport to drive that economic development there as well?
Yep, thank you for your question, and I appreciate that. You know, the thought process that comes to my mind as someone who's been in economic development for the last 30 years, this is an opportunity for us as a community to rethink the way that we've been working around economic development. And what I mean by that is, you know, we can attract another Toyota here, and we can give them great utility rate, and we can give them great taxes, and we can do all these things that every other state or every other community is doing. And the way we've always done economic development for the last 30 years should be one that we shouldn't be focused on. And this is where I encourage this body to consider joining us on a trade mission to a place like Dubai and the United Arab Emirates, which is now, for the last 10 years, has been ranked as the #1 foreign direct investment place in the world, and to study the type of work that they've been doing to revitalize river ports and trade sectors. And where we, as the World Trade Center, can work on that is, I really think we need to develop a program focused on a soft landing place for international startups. The success of the entrepreneurial community historically in a place like Louisville has been companies that got started here and risen to become Fortune 500 companies, the Humanas of the world, the Papa Johns of the world, and so forth. And, you know, you've got programs like the Vogt Awards proved that companies can actually not necessarily launch from here, but because of winning the Vogt Awards, they can move from New Jersey into Louisville and grow into a program like that. And we need to use the World Trade Center and its network of 330 World Trade Centers as a vessel to allow for the international startup programs to happen. And it doesn't have to be international startups. It could be international startups / immigrant startups, but, you know, some international focus on it. Who doesn't want to be part of the U.S. market? We're still the #1 market in the world. You know, just look at the number of investments the UAE government in the last 5 months have put into the United States, whether it's the Sejuanis of the world or the AIs of the world. I mean, the headlines are there, and that's a clear way of us looking at that. But I've been challenged that a lot of the current work that's been happening at the local scene has been too local, if you will. It's happening at the local scene, has been too local. We need to take that and give it a global look.
Yeah, and if I could add two things for my colleagues to that, thinking about particularly Riverport, you know, when I talk to entrepreneurs who are there or business owners who are there, what they are worried about is how do I get a workforce there, which means we need to have housing that is proximate and transit that gets them there on the times that they need them there. And I mean, that is our challenge. How do we invest in or support the infrastructure that those investments that are coming in that you are helping to facilitate? Like, they need workers, and they need some, you know, tech workers, AI, you know, that kind of stuff. That's important. But also, they just need housing that a JCPS bus driver can afford at 80% AMI, Councilwoman Purvis. And they need the ability to get people from that housing at 80% AMI to the place where they make the peanut butter. And that's, you know, that's on us. And I just will echo what you're talking about, that entrepreneurship piece. It used to be that the constraining factor on entrepreneurship, particularly startup-y stuff, was capital. That's why all this stuff happened in Silicon Valley, because they just had money sloshing around all over the place. And so if you can light money on fire until your company makes it or doesn't make it, you're more likely to make it. The constraining factor now is going to be understanding the problems that need to get solved and getting customers to prove that initial proof of concept, the POC, which means that we have an advantage for the first time. We know how to make stuff here. They know how to make, no Stanford PhD knows how to make anything, right? But we do. And so if we can find those entrepreneurs and get them those first customers here and then accelerate them out into the world, that means capital's not our problem. Our actual native ingenuity, people who make things, that's our advantage. And we need to lean into that. I know we're close on time. Other colleagues? Doctor, thank you so much for your presence. Thank you for all the work that you do. We're grateful to you. We hope to succeed. Hope to see that you get the investments that you need to keep doing this stuff.
I appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank
Really
you.
appreciate it. Thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen, we stand adjourned.